Oh, whoops. Sorry, friends. Okay, so now we are starting the episode of the Cyclops. The Cyclops. We've probably all heard of a Cyclops. If you look at the note over on the side over here, it is, well, the Cyclopes is just the plural. When you have more than one Cyclops, you have two Cyclopes. It's a race of giants with one eye in the middle of their forehead. So let's see what Odysseus does when he meets the Cyclops. This is a very long episode. We are not going to finish it all in one day. It might take us probably 2, maybe 3 classes to finish it. Here we go. In the next land we found were Cyclopes, giants, louts, without a law to bless them. In ignorance, leaving the fruitage of the earth in mystery to the immortal gods, they neither plow nor sow by hand, nor till the ground, though grain, wild wheat and barley, grows untended, and wine grapes in clusters ripen in heaven's rains. Cyclopes have no muster and no meeting, no consultation or old tribal ways, but each one dwells in his own mountain cave, dealing out rough justice to wife and child, indifferent to what the others do. As we rode on and nearer to the mainland at one end of the bay, we saw a cavern yawning above the water, screened with laurel, and many rams and goats about the place inside a sheepfold, made from slabs of stone, earth fast between tall trunks of pine and rugged towering oaks. A prodigious man slept in this cave alone, and took his flocks to graze afield, remote from all companions, knowing none but savage ways. A brute so huge, time out, I'll finish that next sentence when we go to the next page. I want you to notice these numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I took 5 characteristics of the Cyclops and put them over here. If you see number 1, it says without a law to bless them. They're lawless. There's no laws. There's no rule in the land of the Cyclopes. Number 2, each one dwells in his own mountain cave. They're very solitary creatures. They deal out rough justice to wife and child. Number 3, they're violent. So we have these big, solitary, lawless creatures who are very violent. And number 4, don't really care about others. They're indifferent to what the others do. And then number 5, if he's making a sheep pen out of slabs of stone and tall trunks of pine, he's moving like gigantic rocks and gigantic trees, meaning very strong, extremely strong. Okay? So we left off right here. It was a brute so huge, he seemed no man at all of those who eat good wheaten bread, but he seemed rather a shaggy mountain reared in solitude. We beached there, and I told the crew to stand by and keep watch over the ship. As for myself, I took my 12 best fighters and went ahead. I had a goat skin full of that sweet liquor that Euthance's son Marin had given me. He kept Apollo's holy grove at Ismarus. For kindness we showed him there, and showed his wife and child, he gave me 7 shining golden talents, perfectly formed, a solid silver wine bowl, and then this liquor. 12 two-handled jars of brandy, pure and fiery. Not a slave in Marin's household knew this drink. Only he, his wife, and the storeroom mistress knew, and they would put 1 cupful, ruby-colored, honey-smooth, in 20 more of water, but still the sweet scent hovered like a fume over the wine bowl. No man turned away when cups of this came around. All right, so he's got this liquor, this brandy that's pure and fiery. It's so strong that 1 cupful of it gets diluted into 20 other cups of water. So we have this really strong liquor that's going to end up being his kind of secret weapon. Stay tuned. But he got that as a gift, and he brought it to the cave for the Cyclops, another example of Greek hospitality. All right. A wineskin full I brought along, and victuals in a bag. For in my bones I knew some towering brute would be upon us soon, all outward power, a wild man, ignorant of civility. We climbed then briskly to the cave, but Cyclops had gone afield to pasture his fat sheep. All right, so now the cave is empty, and just Odysseus and his men are there. So we looked round at everything inside. A drying rack that sagged with cheeses, pens crowded with lambs and kids, each in its class, firstlings apart from middlings, and then the dewdrops, or newborn lambkins, penned apart from both. And vessels full of whey were brimming there, bowls of earthenware and pails for milking. My men came pressing round me, pleading, "Why not take these cheeses, get them stowed, come back, throw open all the pens, and make a run for it? We'll drive the lambs and kids aboard. We say, put out again on good salt water." Ah, how sound that was! Yet I refused. I wished to see the caveman, what he had to offer. So look, his men, all they want to do is just take the stuff, get out of there, and be on their way. But Odysseus refuses. Maybe an example of YOLO, right? He wants to see the caveman. We're not sure, but he says, no, we're going to stay. Let's see what's going on here. No pretty sight it turned out for my friends, right? So Odysseus wants to stay, and he's telling Alcinous, because remember, this whole story is him talking to Alcinous. He's saying, yeah, I wanted to stay, but it was no pretty sight turned out for my friends. So I'm asking, I wonder if that is an example of foreshadowing. We'll have to answer that question when we get to the end, but it's something I'm thinking right now. We lit a fire, burnt an offering, an example of sacrifices, and took some cheese to eat, then sat in silence around the embers waiting. When he came, he had a load of dry boughs on his shoulder to stoke his fire at supper time. He dumped it with a great crash into that hollow cave, and we all scattered fast to the far wall. Then, over the broad cavern floor, he ushered the ewes he meant to milk. He left his rams and he-goats in the yard outside and swung high overhead a slab of solid rock to close the cave. Holy moly, how could you ever pick up a huge slab of rock as your door? So that's just another example of his strength. Okay. I also want you to notice this word scattered. The book is saying, mark the verb Odysseus uses to tell how he and his men moved away from Cyclops. Well, they scattered. All right. Well, usually you scatter when something's kind of scaring you. So just know that the author, Homer, is using these words very carefully. They scattered. They didn't back up. They didn't run away. They scattered like little mice when they see a cat. Here we go. 24 four-wheeled wagons with heavy wagon teams could not have stirred that tonnage of the rock from where he wedged it over the doorsill. Next he took his seat and milked his bleeding ewes. A practice job he made of it, giving each ewe her suckling, thickened his milk then into curds and whey, sieved out the curds to drip into withy baskets, and poured the whey to stand in bowls, cooling until he drank it for his supper. When all these chores were done, he poked the fire, heaping on brushwood. In the glare, he saw us. Uh-oh, now he sees all the guys. Nothing too important for you to have to remember from this section other than that the Cyclops kind of has his own little system for how he gets things done. He definitely has a way that he gets his sheep milked and his food made and things like that. Strangers, he said, who are you and where from? What brings you here by seaways, a fair traffic? Or are you wandering rogues who cast your lives like dice and ravage other folk by sea? We felt a pressure on our hearts in dread of that deep rumble and that mighty man. But all the same I spoke in reply. We are from Troy, Achaeans, blown off course by shifting gales on the great South Sea, homeward bound, but taking routes and ways uncommon, so the will of Zeus would have it. We served under Agamemnon, son of Atreus. The whole world knows what city he laid waste, what armies he destroyed. It was our luck to come here. Here we stand, beholden for your help, or any gifts you give, as custom is to honor strangers. We would entreat you, great sir, have a care for the gods' courtesy. Zeus will avenge the unoffending guest. All right, so the Cyclops finally sees them. Odysseus and his men are very scared, but Odysseus steps up and he... Okay guys, we're back. Sorry we got interrupted. I ran out of time on the other video, so now we have to split it into two. But here we go. We left off with Odysseus was beginning to tell his story. He stepped up as a leader and spoke to the Cyclops, and he says, we have evidence of The gods, right? So the will of Zeus would have it. We have a little epithet here to describe Agamemnon. He's the son of Atreus. We have more evidence of hospitality because Odysseus says, here we stand beholden for your help. Like, you have to help us, we're these strangers. Or any gifts you give, as custom is to honor strangers. And then he goes even further, more evidence for how powerful the gods are and how strong of a role they play for the Greeks, that he says, listen, Zeus will avenge the unoffending guest. It's almost like a threat. Like, if you're not nice to us, keep in mind that Zeus will step in. So we have that. Let's see what happens. He answered this from his brute chest unmoved. You are a ninny, or else you come from the other end of nowhere telling me mind the gods. We Cyclopes care not a whistle for your thundering Zeus or all the gods in bliss. We have more force by far. I would not let you go for fear of Zeus, you or your friends, unless I had a whim to. Tell me, where was it now you left your ship? Around the point or down the shore, I wonder? So, whoa, the Cyclops is not nice, nor does he care about the gods. He's like, we have more force by far. We're stronger than the gods. Then he wants to know where the ship is. Why would he want to know where Odysseus's ship is? Think about that for a second. Odysseus, though, he comes back. He thought he'd find out, but I saw through this. So it shows he's very smart, very clever enough to lie to the Cyclops. And answered with a ready lie, my ship? Poseidon Lord, who sets the earth a-tremble, broke it upon the rocks at your land's end. A wind from seaward served him, drove us there. We are survivors, these good men and I. So a couple things. He's like, oh yeah, our ship was destroyed by Poseidon, but also we are survivors, these good men and I. That means the gods favored them and kind of saved them, giving a little bit more evidence to the Cyclops that maybe he should be nice to them. Neither reply nor pity came from him, but in one stride he clutched at my companions and caught two in his hands like squirming puppies to beat their brain out, spattering the floor. Then he dismembered them and made his meal, gaping and crunching like a mountain lion. Everything, innards, flesh, and marrow bones. We cried aloud, lifting our hands to Zeus, powerless, looking on at this, appalled. But Cyclops went on filling up his belly with man flesh and great gulps of whey, then lay down like a mast among his sheep. My heart beat high now at the chance of action, and drawing the sharp sword from my hip, I went along his flank to stab him where the midriff holds the liver. I had touched the spot when sudden fear stayed me. If I killed him, we perished there as well, for we could never move his ponderous doorway slab aside. So we were left to groan and wait for morning. So, holy moly, the Cyclops ate two of Odysseus's men, dismembering them like squirming puppies. Odysseus tries to take charge and then has a change of heart, and he's like, wait, if I kill this guy, we're still stuck in this cave. So we got to come up with a new plan, and for now, we're just going to sleep here and wait for tomorrow to figure out what to do. On day 2, here we go. When the young dawn with fingertips of rose lit up the world, the Cyclops built a fire and milked his handsome ewes all in due order, putting the sucklings to the mothers. Then, his chores being all dispatched, he caught another brace of men to make his breakfast, and whisked away his great door slab to let his sheep go through. But he, behind, reset the stone as one would cap a quiver. There was a din of whistling as the Cyclops rounded his flock to higher ground, then stillness. And now I pondered how to hurt him worst, if but Athena granted what I prayed for. Here are the means I thought would serve my term. So before we get to his new plan, let's look at this personification. When the young dawn with fingertips of rose lit up the world, right? So it's just a fancy way to describe the sunrise, saying that these fingertips of rose lit up the morning. The Cyclops kills 2 more men, so we could have a beautiful sunrise, but 2 more men just got eaten for breakfast. And then the Cyclops leaves, which means that Odysseus and his men are, well, whatever men he has left, are now alone in the cave. So that's important that the Cyclops is not there, excuse me. We also have more evidence of how Odysseus uses the gods, and he's hoping that if he prays to Athena, that she'll help him. And she is the goddess of wisdom, skills, and warfare. So skills that are going to help him with this Cyclops. So here's his plan. A club or staff lay there along the fold, an olive tree, felled green and left to season, for Cyclops' hand. And it was like a mast of lugger of 20 oars, broad in the beam, a deep sea-going craft might carry. So long, so big around it seemed. Now I chopped out a 6-foot section of this pole and set it down before my men, who scraped it, and when they had it smooth, I hewed again to make a stake with pointed end. I held this in the fire's heart and turned it, toughening it, then hid it well back in the cavern under one of the dung piles in profusion there. Now came the time to toss for it. Who ventured along with me? Whose hand could bear to thrust and grind that spike into Cyclops' eye when mild sleep had mastered him? As luck would have it, the men I would have chosen won the toss. 4 strong men, and I made 5 as captain. So do we see the plan there in the words? He cut a 6-foot section out of a big giant log, made a stake with a pointed end. I tried to draw a picture over here, but it just ended up looking like a pencil. He sharpened it, right, and put it in the fire, and now they're planning on grinding it into the Cyclops' eye. At evening came the shepherd with his flock, his woolly flock. The rams as well this time entered the cave. By some sheep-herding whim or a god's bidding, none were left outside. He hefted his great boulder into place and sat him down to milk the bleating ewes in proper order, put the lambs to suck, and swiftly ran through all his evening chores. Then he caught 2 more men and feasted on them. My moment was at hand, and I went forward, holding an ivy bowl of my dark drink, looking up, saying, Cyclops, try some wine. Here's liquor to wash down your scraps of men. Taste it, and see the kind of drink we carried under our planks. I meant it for an offering if you would help us home. But you are mad, unbearable, a bloody monster. After this, will any other traveler come to see you? Okay, so he comes back, Cyclops returns, eats more men, so now we're up to 6 men that have been eaten, and Odysseus tries to kind of guilt him into drinking this wine. The Cyclops seized and drained the bowl, and it went down so fiery and smooth he called for more. Uh-oh, he likes it. Give me another, thank you kindly. Tell me, how are you called? I'll make a gift will please you. Even Cyclopes know the wine grapes grow out of grassland and loam in heaven's rain. But here's a bit of nectar and ambrosia. 3 bowls I brought him, and he poured them down. I saw the fuddle and flush come over him. Then I sang out in cordial tones, Cyclops, you ask my honorable name. Remember the gift you promised me, and I shall tell you. My name is Nobody. Mother, father, and friends, everyone calls me Nobody. So first of all, he just gets the Cyclops drunk off that liquor. Usually they dilute it. Remember when he was telling where he got it from? He said 1 cup usually is diluted with 20 more. He's given him the straight 3 bowls of it. So this Cyclops is getting drunk. Then at the end, he's clever enough to tell the Cyclops his name was Nobody. I want you to imagine if your name was Nobody. Imagine if you got in trouble at school, let's say, and, or wait, you did something bad and somebody else said, well, nobody did it. Nobody did that, right? And then you're in the clear because your name's Nobody, but they're saying Nobody. Kind of confusing, but just imagine if your name was actually Nobody. And that's the end of all that we're going to read today. Think about this whole Nobody business. If you want to keep reading on your own, you can. We'll pick up where we left off. But now I want you to go to the video for the graphic organizers for the Lotus Eaters, and we'll kind of walk through that. Get these notes down from these videos and tackle your question of the day, which is about the Cyclops, and you are good to go.